If you're looking for the best places to photograph wildlife in the UK, then you might be considering one of the 15 national parks. But which one is the best? Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be exploring each one of them to find out. So in this video, I've come to the Norfolk Broads, which is an area covering around 300 square kilometres and is home to the largest protected wetland in the UK. This is an incredibly special habitat, home to a wide variety of species, and in fact, despite the Broads covering less than 1% of the UK's total landmass, it's home to over a quarter of the total species found in the UK, making it one of the most biodiverse places in the country. Not only this, but it's also home to species which are found nowhere else. So on paper, this looks like somewhere that might be particularly special, but just how good is it?
Now, there's two main species that I'm looking out for today. One is the marsh harrier, a bird of prey which likes to hunt on these open reed beds. The other one that I'm looking for is the swallowtail, so a much smaller species. This is actually a species of butterfly, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's not a species I've ever seen before, so if I do get to see it today, that would be absolutely amazing. So for this, I've come to Hickling Broad, which is supposed to be a great place to see both of them. Let's see what we can find. So we've just got down to our first viewing point, and the view is absolutely stunning. And even though it's mega early in the morning, the amount of wildlife which is active currently is absolutely fantastic. You see on these dead trees behind me, you've got this wonderful cormorant which is being silhouetted by this rising sun behind us. We've just seen a couple of spoonbills just coming into land, which is a fantastic way to start the morning.
Hickling Broad became an incredibly important site for the spoonbills, as back in 2023, they bred here for the first time in over 400 years.
You've got a wonderful amount of little egrets, and then obviously the usual plethora of ducks. I've seen a couple of oyster catchers, and I've got this whole place to myself, which is absolutely fantastic. So far, I'm absolutely blown away, and it's only the first viewing point. We've got plenty more to see. Let's go.
Whilst looking for the swallowtails, one thing that was immediately clear is that the Broads are an absolute haven for insects. And in particular, I was blown away by the number of dragonflies, not only in the numbers present, but also in the diversity. Now, I spoke earlier about the Broads having a number of unique species, and the Norfolk hawker is one of those species. Now, although they can be found in a lot of places throughout Norfolk, the Broads are a real stronghold for them. If you did want to see them, the best time to visit is late May through to August. For me, I found that I had the best results when they were perched sunning themselves, although I'd love to get a photo of them flying one day. On top of this, we saw a number of butterflies, including painted ladies and red admirals, which again have required a very similar technique to the dragonflies, of waiting until they're perched sunning themselves, and then from here taking as many photos as you can before they fly away. I found that the hardest part of photographing them was just having the patience of waiting for them to open up their wings fully. Speaking of wings, nice segue, let's talk about the other birds which are found on the reserve. Out on the main footpaths, I lost count of the number of warblers and other small songbirds in the reeds. What was great about this in terms of photography was not only are they close enough, but they were also at eye level when they were sat on the reeds. This is a massive thing when it comes to photography, as shooting birds up in the tree just doesn't give the same sort of perspective as being able to get down to eye level. But it wasn't just the paths that were great around the reserve, there were also a number of hides that you could visit. In fact, one particular hide I went to was home to a family of swallows. This was genuinely such a special experience, just to sit and share the same space with them. The parents were constantly bringing in food and watching out for potential predators such as the marsh harriers that I was looking for. And it was actually from this hide that I saw my first one, patrolling the reed beds looking for its next meal. Now, the marsh harriers are very reminiscent of red kites if you've ever seen them, and in fact they have a very similar conservation story in the UK, as their numbers plummeted in the 70s to just a single pair. Fortunately, they are doing a lot better now, with around 700 individuals being found in the UK. Beyond the hides, there are a number of different boat tours that you can take around various different Broads, with the one I took being run by the Norfolk Wildlife Trust. It's a great way to see the birds from a different perspective, as well as hearing about how the Broads were formed when the pits were flooded following years of digging for peat. You also get access to additional hides which are not accessible to the general public, even if there wasn't much to see when we visited on the day. So for now, it was back to the mainland and the hunt for the swallowtails. Fortunately, we had received a tip-off from the staff at the visitor centre whilst booking the boat tour as to where was the best place to see them around the reserves. So after checking out a few different spots that they had recommended, we finally found them. I was genuinely blown away by the colour on these stunning butterflies, with no other comparable species in the UK. This subspecies is only found in the Norfolk Broads, making it a massive draw for photographers across the UK, and also they don't hang around for long, mainly being found between mid-May and July. Hopefully with time their distribution increases as well, but their distribution is very much dependent on milk parsley, which is a food plant which the females use to lay their eggs on. If you are looking at visiting, I'd definitely recommend talking to the park staff, as this would have saved me an absolute heap of time. As you can probably see from the clips, I really spammed the shutter, as they were incredibly fast, so I wanted just to make sure that I had as many frames to choose from as possible in editing, as well as lots of different wing positions to choose from, as they didn't hold them open for long. I spent a long time here chatting with other photographers, and it was from these talks I was told that there was a very special species in the hides just next door.
Okay, so I've just been told by a gentleman that I was down at the swallowtails just now, that up in the hide that we went to earlier, there's potentially a couple of cranes with a couple of chicks. Let's go find out.
And here they are. This bizarre looking bird was extinct from the UK for around 400 years. And it's thanks in part to a small reintroduction in Norfolk in the 1970s that their numbers have started to recover in the UK, with around 87 breeding pairs, with a large chunk of that found in Norfolk. And as you can see, they are definitely successfully breeding here. This was really the icing on the cake to an absolutely awesome day at the reserve. Now, one thing I've not yet covered is the gear that I've used on the day. And this is because I learned a lot from the trip and what I'd recommend bringing for next time.
The first thing I want to talk about is the workhorse of this trip, which was the Sigma 150-600. Now, I don't think anyone will be massively surprised when we're talking about wildlife. We want to be bringing along a longer focal length lens. For the most part, I was shooting at 600mm when I was shooting the subjects which were further away, so these were the things that I was looking for, like the birds and the mammals. This lens has also got a really great minimum focusing distance, meaning I can get much closer to the subjects. However, for this trip, I was planning on bringing along another lens, which hopefully would fill in this role of focusing much, much closer. And that's this lens right here. Just gonna wait for the boat to go past. One day I'll get one. For now, we're just going to talk about the Sigma 24-70. This is the lens I was expecting to use for wider landscapes, along with getting closer to the subjects and shooting some macro for things such as the swallowtails, the butterflies and the dragonflies that I saw along this trip. However, this is actually the first time that I've got this camera out of the bag on this entire trip. The reason being is that a lot of the landscapes that are around the Broads are pretty flat, so they've been pretty sort of uninspiring, so I really just haven't wanted to bring them out. There's no waterfalls or mountains or anything like that I've wanted to shoot. For the small bits of B-roll that you're seeing in terms of the wide shots, that was all just shot with the iPhone at the end of the day, rather than spending the time to get this out and really, you know, make an effort. That sounds stupid. But it just hasn't felt warranted to want to go full hog into using the 24-70, to be honest. The other thing that I did bring along this lens for was the macro, and I even brought along a little macro tube. Essentially what this is a little tool to enable you to get even closer to your subject. However, what I found when I was shooting the macro subjects, so the things like the swallowtails and the dragonflies, it was actually far, far better to use the 150-600. This is because the subjects were so erratic, they weren't really staying in one space to, you know, really closely focus in and spend time doing it. It was more like shooting birds in flight, where you're really chasing around your subject and you're just getting shot. Also, a lot of the subjects were a little bit further away, so the 150-600 played a much bigger role in photographing these subjects than this did. The other big benefit with not bringing along the 24-70 when I was walking around the reserves is obviously we're saving a lot of weight. This does mean, however, that I probably don't need it to bring along the bag at all. And in fact, that's what I ended up doing. So you'll see early on in the video that I am carrying the bag around with me. It's much, much heavier. But what I ended up doing was leaving all that in the car, and I brought along a much lighter setup, which on a hot day like it is today, I think it's due to be 30 odd degrees, was definitely something that I really appreciated. The bag I ended up bringing was this. Now this is a much lighter setup. It's just a camel pack that you would use for hiking. And essentially what it is it's just a big bag of water. So on a hot day like today, it was really, really important. I think I went through about 3 litres of water yesterday and even ended up having to fill it up in the visitor centre. It's that hot. So massively useful. There is still a little bit of space to store other things like batteries and sun cream. And then massively importantly, if you're coming to the Broads, insect repellent. I genuinely cannot recommend insect repellent enough. As you can imagine, most of the reserves out here are by the water, which is obviously a great breeding ground for lots of biting insects that want to eat your legs. So having insect repellent has absolutely saved the day. And if you have any questions in terms of the gear that I've used, be sure to drop them down in the comments down below. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Back to the video.
So I think I've made it quite clear that Hickling Broad really is a special place for wildlife. But what about the Broads more generally? Well, I also had time to visit Strumpshaw Fen, which is another great reserve, again absolutely full of dragonflies and loads of wading birds, including this awesome little egret and a beautiful little family of swans. In fact, I'd only been at the reserve for 5 minutes before someone pointed out that there was a bittern on the other side of the lake. Now, it doesn't show very well in the video, but you're just going to have to believe me that these 3 pixels really were a bittern. And beyond the reserve, there was so much wildlife to see on the drives between reserves, including this lovely red deer with some spectacular sunsets just to top it off. One additional note to add for the sake of completeness is that the Broads actually also extends to the coastline, and in particular one very special place, which is Horsey Gap, which is home to one of the largest breeding grey seal populations in the UK, with over 3,000 grey seals making this place home between the months of November and February. During this time, they're going to give birth to around 3,500 pups, which is absolutely fantastic, and I'd highly recommend visiting. And if you'd like to learn more about photographing the seals on the Norfolk coast, then I'll leave the link to another video at the end of this one. Overall, I think you can see just how deserving of the national park status this place is, and how great it is for photography. So I feel very confident in giving this place a 5 out of 5, and can definitely recommend it as a place to visit for all skill levels and interests. Now, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you do want to follow along on the rest of the journey exploring the rest of the national parks, then do consider hitting that subscribe button down below. And finally, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.